Hello, and welcome back to Jews with the News. It's episode 2. Who would have thought we made it this far?
I know, considering our funding is so darn low. I mean, it's
Yeah, we're going to leave
amazing.
a link to our GoFundMe page.
GoFundMe, we're trying to
in the
get big.
description.
Yeah, we want to be trending soon.
So first order of business, speaking of trending, Twitter, people were hacked. I think it was Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. Am I missing anybody important?
There are definitely other people. Yeah, but those were the
they
big ones.
got hacked by a person saying that if you give them Bitcoin, they will double your Bitcoin and give it back to you. But it was a scam, and the person made like $1,400.
Right, which is a lot of hassle to go through just to get $1,400. Think about how difficult
How many
it is.
passwords do you have to guess to get
Right,
into each account?
and then you have to do it again for each new person's Twitter account, right? So here's my theory, right? I think it's an inside job. I think that's how they did it.
You're talking about somebody from Twitter?
Yeah, someone working from Twitter did this because I feel like only someone with insider knowledge as to how the Twitter OS works is going to, or the Twitter web services works or whatever, will actually is going to be able to have access to Twitter accounts so easily. Because if you consider how fast he was able to get into all these, or how she was able to get into all these Twitter accounts, it's pretty like insane that this person was able to do that in that short amount of time.
Well, on the topic of conspiracies, we'd like to introduce our guest for this episode. Jeremy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jeremy Oyoung.
Hi, Jeremy.
I play a lot of tennis, and that's basically it. And
First
read
question.
about conspiracy theories. So yeah.
First question: do you think that a hot dog is a sandwich?
Got to say yes, most definitely.
Controversial, I see. Okay. So first, we're here to talk about conspiracy theories. Now, you have a specific conspiracy theory you want to talk about. You quickly just want to give an overview about what this theory is.
Yes, and then first I'd like to add on to the whole Twitter thing. So there is another idea. I think your inside job theory or / hypothesis could be one thing, but I've also seen that people are saying that it's actually a foreign state coming in and hacking and sending a message to us saying, we can hack Twitter, we can mess with you guys, because
it's Russia.
You're right in saying that they're going through this much hassle just to get $1,000 or whatever from a bunch of people. If you wanted to make a Bitcoin kind of hack or scam, there's a lot of other ways you could do it. So I just want to put that out there before.
Okay.
So the conspiracy theory I wanted to delve into today is called the QAnon conspiracy theory. So it's basically, in one sentence, it's a ring of really, really wealthy elite people control every single institution, and they're devil worshippers, and they traffic children.
The
just QAnons.
To clarify, this is a conspiracy. It's alleged. We're not saying that these people are actually in the ring. It's just what the conspiracy says.
Yes. And I have to go, before I say anything, I don't fully believe all of this.
Fully, okay.
All right. We can move into things surrounding the Clinton Foundation. So the Clinton Foundation was doing a lot of work in Haiti after
the earthquake.
Yeah, after the earthquake. And so there were several people that either worked or went to investigate what the Clinton Foundation was actually doing. And so there's Dean Lorich, who's a surgeon, and he openly vented disgust at the Clinton Foundation in Haiti, and he ended up dead in New York with a knife in his chest. And this was ruled suicide. Then there's, let's see. There's also Monica Peterson, a social anthropologist that went to Haiti to investigate human trafficking, and she tweeted critical thoughts about the Clinton Foundation and was found dead by hanging November 13th, 2016, and that was also ruled a suicide. And then there's Klaus Eberwein, and he was due to testify against the Clinton Foundation for their corruption, and he was found dead days before the trial, July 12th, 2017. So, you know, could be a coincidence. Could be a coincidence.
Mhm.
And then there's also this fact that a lot of famous people have either been like quote unquote canceled or have died suspiciously after calling out these alleged pedophile rings and the elites. Let's see. There's Natasha. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but it's Jaett, so like Jate, I guess. And she's an Argentinian model and whistleblower, and she researched pedo rings in Argentina, and she actually came out and named politicians and Pope Benedict on live TV. So she's calling them out on live TV, and then she was found dead in a hotel room a couple days after. And then there's this guy named Isaac Cappy who named Hollywood pedophiles, and he committed suicide as well. So these are just some of the deaths that we've gone through so far. And you could say, okay, these are coincidental, which I do think it's possible that it's a coincidence, right? But for the Qs or whatever, they one thing they say is how many coincidences until it's mathematically impossible, right? So okay, so another thing the QAnons they've talked about is Pizzagate, which I'm sure you guys have heard about. Our Lord and Savior Alex Jones, very fond of that one. And so Pizzagate is basically the idea. There's a place called Comet Ping Pong in DC, and basically what the Qs and other conspiracy theorists accuse Comet Ping Pong and their owner of is they're part of this big child sex trafficking ring.
Essentially, there's this big elite pedo ring where they human traffic, sex traffic children, and they kind of like control that. And there's been a lot of suspicious deaths that these people have looked into it or tried to like expose it, and then they all of a sudden die either by coincidence or by on purpose. And there have been a lot of theories of like they go through the pizza parlor in DC, stuff like that. And that's essentially like what the QAnons are trying to expose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's just talk about that portion for a sec, and then we'll move on to kind of more conspiracy theories off of that tangent. But I think Jack and I both have opinions on that, and then Jeremy after that. I think if you have anything you'd like to say about, what you do believe, what you don't believe, anything cool to add on, we can do that too. So I'll go first, and so I do not believe this conspiracy theory, and here's the biggest reason why. I think this conspiracy theory was first proposed by someone anonymously who went by the name Q, and he claims to have worked for the Department of Energy. And so what I think is interesting is that this conspiracy theory is one that people who believe it will never be able to be unconvinced of it, because part of the theory is that you can't trust any institution. So any journalist, any politician, any person who is in any way like claims to like be tied to some sort of institution who says that this is not true will never be able to convince a believer of this, because a believer of this conspiracy theory thinks that we can't trust anything any like big institutions say. And I think that's ironic too, because they are putting their trust in an anonymous person who claims to have worked for the Department of Energy. That's where I'm at. Jack, why don't you jump in on this?
I think I also it is suspicious, and there probably I don't know. There probably is something fishy going on, because I feel like a lot of like the way elites get their money is very dirty. I have two big issues with it. The first one is that people are using this conspiracy to commit acts of domestic terrorism. Uh, it's actually the only conspiracy labeled by the FBI to be a source of domestic terrorism. They have gone around committing crimes, committing murders. I think there was a person
They shot up the pizza place. Yeah,
yeah,
there's
they
a guy
shot up
that went in and
there
shot it up.
was a person who tried to blow up the Hoover Dam, was it?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just an excuse for them to, do these heinous acts because they believe they were told to do so, even though the messages this Q group of people or person puts out there is very cryptic, and it doesn't tell them to do that whatsoever. And I think people are like taking out of control. The other issue I have with it is that this is a very right-wing conspiracy. Like, they blame everything like on Democrats. And if there is this pedo ring with the elites, I'm just going to throw this out there. There are definitely people from both sides if it's real. It's not just one side, which I believe all the QAnon people are throwing it on is the left side. I do believe that if this is a real thing, people at fault on both aisles.
Yeah, and so I'd add to that these people, they believe Trump is kind of a part of the top people with Q, and some of them even believe that JFK Jr. might be secretly alive.
Yeah.
And he might come back to like somehow unify the nation and be like, all right, we're calling these people out. And then also,
they believe that Donald Trump faked colluding with Russia to get Mueller on board, and then Donald Trump and Mueller are going to go attack the Democrats for the veto ring, which I feel like there's enough evidence to say that Donald Trump did collude with Russia, but like that's something. And the other thing that they believe, which I think is really ridiculous, is that Kim Jong-un is a puppet leader put in place by the CIA. I think that's absurd. That's ridiculous.
He's the son of Kim Jong-il, so like he would have had to, right? The CIA would have had to put like Kim Jong-un's grandfather,
Kim Il-sung.
Kim Il-sung, thank you. So I don't know what the theory is, but if it's just Kim Jong-un, I feel like there's a little bit of a flaw in that logic.
Yeah, and so I think that these people are taking this way too far, and the part I do believe is that there's definitely some type of pedophile ring, and a lot of people, higher ups, are involved in it. That's my take from it.
Yeah, I think there's another conspiracy, the lizard people conspiracy.
Oh,
that's awfully similar.
I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm just gonna let you guys know.
That's awfully similar to the QAnon. The lizard people conspiracy is basically there's a group of people. It's celebrities, it's politicians, it's basically anybody who has like major influence is this like reptilian creature who shapeshift into human form, and in their normal form, they're lizards, and they basically have enslaved the human race into doing what they want, and they're like this satanic cult and are like really terrible.
Okay, so I want to share something with you guys because I did a lot of research, and so they say here are some ways to detect a potential lizard person, right? So they say that the first obvious way to detect if someone is a lizard person is if they look like any lizard, have any lizard qualities, right? So scales or things like that, or like like a forked tongue, right? But they say that the lizard people, they're good at hiding themselves, like pretending to be human. So they say here's a list of things that you that you can tell someone is a lizard person, right? Red hair, green or hazel eyes that have the potential to change color, low blood pressure, piercing eyes, a deep compassion for fate of mankind. Now, I'm leaving some stuff off, like UFO connections, psychic ability, a sense of not belonging to the human race. but I feel like you don't have to meet all the criteria. So here's what I believe. I think that I am a lizard person. Right? Like it's all like I have red hair.
But
My eyes are
wouldn't you
hazel
know?
and change color. I have low blood pressure. I have good eyesight.
It all adds up. I guess Eli's a lizard
Right?
person.
Like if there were to be this, like, I feel like if I am not a lizard person, then if this theory ended up getting any like major like prominence in like our society, I would like go
Your
into a
head's on the
bunker.
chopping block.
Yeah, like I would like, yeah. So but I had a lot of fun because I think this is one of the sillier ones out there, because I don't think we should put too much stock in this theory, so it's just fun looking at these. What do you guys think about it?
I'm more of a fan. I'm more of a fan of the person who like popularized the theory as opposed to the theory itself. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous suggesting that there's this reptilian creature who could shapeshift into humans. Is kind of ridiculous. But David Icke, the person who popularized it in '90, a bunch of talk shows, and basically said that he was the son of God and that the world was going to end. And that was in 1990. And as far as I know, the world hasn't ended. And he's a bit of a whack job. I think he said some really crazy stuff, and he's got like a lot of books that go on more in depth about some like conspiracy theories. I think one of his latest books was about how the moon was the home base for this reptilian creatures, and they use it to like hypnotize the human race. It's absurd.
Yeah, so I'd say just the thing in general with conspiracy theories is they take a bunch of facts, and let's say these facts, we'll just call it like these points, and they connect lines that just really shouldn't be there when the more obvious answer would probably be the truthful one. So yeah, that's what I'd want to say about that. But then, so to extend off of this and why I'd say these conspiracy theories have come to prominence is the distrust in our mainstream media, I'd say. Like you'll just personally, I know I have my biases, but I've tried to give the media like the benefit of the doubt a lot of the times. But like their coverage just in the past 6 months has been super hypocritical and very back and forth, and it's like I have no trust in them at all anymore.
The term fake news gets thrown around a lot. That kind of has to deal with this issue. And although like President Trump didn't like first coin the term, but like he's popularized it in our culture now. There's what he uses it for is partisan bias. What I think fake news should be used for is the fact that a lot of news sources, whether that be CNN, Fox News, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, is like there's so many opinion pieces, and like people take that for fact when they're not given the actual facts, which I think is a problem with our society. Is like we just read either the headlines or we don't look into the news, and we need to actually understand the facts of like what the article is like trying to portray, as opposed to what the person who's writing it feels, because that's obviously going to be partisan. It's just however the person feels. Like, okay, this is what you should believe. You should be able to determine your own opinions based off of facts, as opposed to somebody telling you what to believe.
Right.
I think Twitter started to do the thing where you like have to read the article before you post it or something like that, which I think it's something along the lines where you have to like read it before you like reply or something, or they're trying to get that installed. And I think that's actually a really good idea. It's like, because Twitter is a lot of like fake news out there. I'm using the term fake news, but it's a lot of like people push just to get their opinions across, but they don't understand what they're actually saying.
So
And sorry.
I think that there is a large chunk of good media out there that is like actually trying to like be unbiased. I think though that because media organizations are owned by private companies, what gets amplified the loudest is whatever the people in charge believe can make the most money or can get the most people to watch their show. And so what
Like
that ends
rage
up
bait.
being is right, exactly. And so a lot of times it feels like media are talking more often about the state of media than about anything else, and they're like, it's like a huge blame game going on, and like no one's willing to like take the blame for themselves, like accept the blame, and it's a whole mess. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely like the moment you come to the realization that the media is just corporations looking to make money and not looking out for providing the people with truth is the moment where things start clicking. You know, you take that little red pill, but you can't take all. Okay, so this is an analogy, but like you take one red pill, you don't take the bottle, which is how people who they see this back and forth by media organizations. Like for instance, you've got CNN saying, "Oh, hydroxychloroquine is bad," and then they come out a couple weeks ago and say, "Oh, the study actually says it might work." And it's like you see this thing over and over and over again, and you're like, "All right, they're just all lying to me. This is all fake, and I'm going to trust this anonymous source or this other guy." And that's how a lot of people spiral down this conspiracy rabbit hole, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
It's disappointing that like we can't just like be fed, like truthful things that people are really like gonna like manipulate society to the point where like you believe so we can make money. It's capitalism. That's what capitalism is.
That's yeah, that's
Like that's created this type of like environment in our society where the news sources are only out there to make money.
yeah. So that's Jews with the News official stance on capitalism. If any of you were wondering, I know many of you were. So thank you, Jack.
Capitalism's cool. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, sure, yeah, free market. Yeah, totally.
Well, okay. I myself would push back and say it's better that you have all these multiple different sources than just have a state-run thing where they can control what you think, right?
But I feel like there should be like some honesty to
I think
some of them.
I think that's why local newspapers
Mhm.
are so much more trustworthy, because there isn't huge competition going on in like the Des Moines media, right? So what happens is like, because there's only like one, maybe two newspapers, they don't have to fight to like make more, compelling media. They can just report the news, and then people will buy it because, there are only one or two or three newspapers in, Des Moines, Iowa. So I think that's why like local news is like a lot more trustworthy. I think there are a few examples of national news organizations that are at the very least trying, but it gets difficult when you have to answer to, Jeff Bezos or whoever owns your newspaper.
Yeah.
Well, the story is just do your research. It's just like
Exactly.
it's tough, but you can't just like read into the first article, first headline. You gotta actually look into what you want to research.
Yeah.
And I'd say there has been some sort of awakening to this, that you are getting lied to a lot, and there's been like kind of independent journalists and independent media, I guess mostly on YouTube, that seem to be getting more traction now, that people are seeing that the news is mostly just um, like partisan BS and warmongering BS too. So
All right. Well, our time is running short. We're down to less than a minute. So with that on our Zoom call, So with that, we're going to end the episode. I know it's a weird stopping place, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy, for
thank
joining.
you. We also again want to shout out Daniel Zhang, who edits these amazing videos. So thank you, Jeremy. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys for having me.
All right. This has been Jews with the News.
See you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.